5, I think. Go easy with the last one.
Right. Shell or BP super, sir?
I don't know. Is it worth the extra?
Worth it, sir? I'll say. You'll feel the difference the moment you put your foot down.
I dare say, but will I get more miles per gallon?
Oh, definitely, sir. Because how much you'll get depends on whether your engine's been tuned properly. Not a big job, sir. Doesn't cost much and doesn't take long. You'll find some improvement whether you do anything at all. But if you really want to get the very best out of it, it does call for a bit of tuning. Now, if you'd like to bring her in the morning, I can probably fix it up for you.
He's dead right, you know. By the way, my name's Bob Selby. I'm a Shell and BP man. You may remember me from the Treasure Island film. Anyway, what you've just heard over there is the kind of talk I'm going to hear all over the country now that branded fuels are back. They're all going to ask, is the new petrol worth the extra cost? And what can the ordinary motorist do to get the very most out of it? At research stations like Sunbury, Anglo-Iranian and Shell have gone to considerable pains to find out both the best blend of fuel to offer the public and also what tuning up to recommend. Cars festooned with scientific equipment, far beyond the resources of ordinary garages, have been finding out the basic facts on fuel and performance. Before putting a brand on sale, we have to be very sure it will do what we say it will do. So having settled the blend, the next thing has been to find out how cars were going to like it and what engine adjustments, if any, should be made to take advantage of the premium fuels. The first thing was to check that the cars and components we used were standard in every respect. This entailed very careful checking of such parts as the distributor by means of a stroboscope. Once they were happy about the components, what the boffins called instrumentation of the whole car began. This is the connecting up of various vital components of the car to measuring gauges, so that the performance of each one could be checked at any given moment on the test. For complicated control tests such as these, we came to know what sort of performance figures the average motorist should get. So let's game all sorts of practical running tests of consumption, made on all sorts of cars and motorcycles. The figures varied a lot, as indeed they were expected to do, but they all showed an improvement. Less complicated than Sunbury, these tests set out to prove just one thing, the effect on petrol consumption. And so, naturally, great care was taken to see that the amount of petrol consumed was accurately measured. These tests showed that, broadly speaking, all cars, however old or inefficient, gave some improvement in petrol consumption. The figures ranged from 2.25% for a car which had had nothing done to it, to 19% in the case of a very high compression job, carefully tuned, with the average running out at a conservative 6%. Now, out of all this testing, 3 facts have emerged. First, the motorist will have better motoring with the new fuels, even if he does nothing at all to his engine. Second, if he wants the best performance, then he ought to get the engine tuned. Third, if he wants maximum miles per gallon as well, then he's got to get the engine tuned. Well, there's nothing very frightening in that. The proper method of tuning up is a simple 6-point drill. 5 of these points are ordinary, plain, common sense, everyday garage practice. But let's gallop through them. First, remove, clean, adjust, or renew if necessary, all sparking plugs. Second, check and renew as required all ignition leads. Third, check automatic advance mechanism of distributor to see if it's working properly and rectify any faults if present. Fourth, check contact breaker gap and condition of points. True up or renew points if necessary and adjust to setting recommended by engine manufacturers. Fifth, without dismantling, check carburetor for proper functioning and freedom from leaks. Remove petrol filter, clean, and replace. Now we come to the most important point of the lot, to set the ignition. This must be accurate, and it may call for a short road test.
Road test? Nah. All you've got to do is advance the spark until she pinks, and then notch it back a bit. That's the best setting for the car. That's practical, that is.
I wish it were just as simple as that, but I'm afraid it isn't. All I can do is to tell you what was proved by all these tests. Timing is supremely important, and timing can only be accurately gauged in one of 3 ways. First of all, the stopwatch. For this one, you must take the car out on an open stretch of road, and in top gear, drop her down to below 20. Then you put your foot hard down, and as the speedometer needle passes the 20 mark, start your watch. Keep it at full throttle, and take the timing as you pass the 50 mark. Next, advance the ignition, and repeat the test. Your lowest time without pinking is automatically your best ignition setting. Well now, that's the stopwatch method. But there's another test you can do without taking the car out on the road at all, with a vacuum gauge. For this you will need to drill a small hole in the inlet manifold. To this attach the vacuum gauge, following the detailed tune-up, fill-up instructions. Then set your engine speed to a fast idle and advance the distributor till you get the maximum reading on the gauge. But probably the most accurate test that the average garage can carry out is the one using an accelerometer, such as the tachometer. Clamped to a convenient part of the dashboard, it tells you the maximum pull of an engine when accelerating. The highest reading on any one run is all that matters. And in this case, the first test gives us figures around 130 on the left-hand scale. You'll have to do 2 or 3 runs on each setting to get a fair average. Note down the figures and mark off the setting of the distributor as you found it. Then advance the ignition and go out for another test. Drop down in top gear to as low as she'll comfortably go. Then put your foot down hard and take the top reading. Advancing the spark has put the figures up from 130 to about 170. Once the dial swings back, you're no longer accelerating, so you can stop the car by the roadside and then advance the ignition again, marking up the settings before. Then back into the car and off again on the same stretch of road. This is important, since other factors, such as wind conditions, surface, and slope of road, should not change appreciably during the tests. This time, the figures go no higher than about 150. This means that although the engine may not be blinking, you've advanced the ignition setting beyond the engine's peak performance. So stop the car once more and retard the spark to that point where you got readings up in the 170s on the tachometer. Now you know exactly where you are. With the best Tapley figures and no pinking, you can assure your customer that he has his ignition dead right for both engine and fuel. Well, that's all there is to it. With the new fuel, there's bound to be some improvement, both in performance and miles to the gallon. But if you want the best performance and value, then the engine must be tuned. This means 5 simple actions, which are part of everyday garage practice anyway, and a short test to find out the best ignition setting. And that's the key to it all. Half an hour's work, and you have the car tuned up to its best consumption and performance. And then you can safely tell your most particular customer to fill up and feel the difference.